Hello and welcome to the More to Life podcast. I am your host, Elle Mace, and today we are joined by my dear friend and fabulous woman, Michaila Tyson. Hi.
That's why I'm laughing.
Did you enjoy that intro?
Hopefully, we did everything short of singing.
I am so pleased that we've finally managed to get this session in together because we're both very, very busy women. But yeah, we have a fantastic connection, don't we? And we went. You joined me in my first retreat, which was just super special. But introduce yourself to us because you'll do a much better job of it than I will. So, who are you? What do you do?
My name is Michaela, and I just want to say as well, I'm super glad that we're having this conversation. We have these incredible conversations in WhatsApp, and we're like, why have we not recorded this?
Yeah,
So I am Michaila Tyson, and I am a mother wound and relationship coach. Sometimes call myself a healer or a shame alchemist, many different names at this point. I am a ex-nurse, so I was a nurse for 15 years and then transitioned into coaching and moving away from nursing about 3 years ago. Um, I how much am I giving away here?
oh, that's fab. That's fab. You keep going. Keep going.
I grew up with a narcissistic mother, but that was something that I didn't realize was the case until around 10 years ago.
Hmm.
If anyone had of asked me about the relationship to my mum, I would have said that we were best friends. That
Yeah.
was very much our relationship, very, very enmeshed. Um, and I took a lot of responsibility for her and her happiness. So yeah, I've been kind of healing and unraveling a lot of things over the last decade, which has, as a byproduct, completely changed my life and my relationship to myself and everything. So that is where my passion lies now, really helping women kind of find that emotional freedom
Mm.
within themselves.
Yeah, because I can only imagine that it comes of a very heavy heart and can be extremely difficult. I mean, I'm exposed to a lot more kind of narcissistic relationships within a partnership, husbands and wives, etc. And I know how difficult that can be to get out of. But I kind of feel like with a mother, it might feel even harder at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many hurdles to even acknowledging that the relationship with your mother might be unhealthy. A lot of people are using the word toxic. I don't disagree with the word, but I don't know, I have my thoughts around it. I don't think it's always very helpful. Um, but yeah, there are many things that make it difficult to look at our mother wound and really look at that relationship. The biggest reason being that society very much romanticizes mothers and they're on a pedestal, and it can just be really, really hard to even challenge the narrative that mothers are all loving and all nurturing.
Yeah. And also the comparison, like just as a child going through life, mothers are such a big part of every child's life, whether it's a maternal or foster or care or whatever, but that kind of mothering figure, it's a huge comparison piece for children, isn't it? And
Yeah.
teenagers.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something that a lot of my clients say to me, and I used to do this as well, is like it's very, very easy to isolate yourself when you have a prominent mother wound, and it's very, very easy to kind of look at other mother-daughter relationships and be like, why don't I have that?
Mhm.
And like you just said, Al, like to your point, mothers are everything. Like they're
Mhm.
everything to you when you are a child and a baby. Like you're pregnant now, your baby, you're everything to that baby,
Yeah.
and it starts even before you become earthside. So to think about how much that relationship influences your relationship blueprint kind of gives you an idea of how deep this runs.
Very, very deep. And also, I'm guessing this is kind of linked as well to that, like, typical father wound as well. And But let's actually cover off this word that people use, daddy issues. Yeah, no, you're laughing. I hear this all the time. Oh, they've got daddy issues, but I'm guessing that is the same kind of meaning as the mother wound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. Um, I mean, that term in itself is like, I mean, there's so much I could say about that, that I
Yeah,
don't,
I can imagine.
yeah, like it's not, is it validating? Is it incredibly invalidating? I
Mm,
mean, that's the question. Um, but it's a lot more acceptable to talk about daddy issues, it seems, than to talk about mother issues. You know, the
yes.
mother is just, you don't go there, apparently. It's just, I know it for me, it took such a long time to even consider that, holy shit, it could be my mum that is contributing to a lot of the pain and a lot of the confusion that I'm feeling.
Oh gosh, as you said that, I kind of like felt it myself. I was like, so that moment for you, like when you had that realization of, oh my gosh, it could be her that is making me feel like this. Like, what was that like for you?
Really, like really hard,
Mm,
really hard. And it wasn't a quick thing, and I feel like that's really important to say here. Like it wasn't quick. It was definitely a process. It was something that I think I was aware of before I was aware,
mm,
before I was kind of allowing myself to consciously acknowledge it.
mm,
And it took time. It was definitely a process. Um, Definitely a process. And, even now, I've not spoken to my mum in coming up for 3 years.
mm,
And whilst the pain doesn't live in my body like it used to, and I definitely think that I've healed that, transcended that wound to a huge degree. I don't believe in healed, but I do believe I've transcended it to a huge degree. Even now, the grief that it wasn't what I wanted and it wasn't what I needed and it won't ever be. It's still there. And something that I say a lot to women is, because there's definitely this, and I think it's when you're trying to heal anything, it's like you just want to get from A to B as quickly as possible. You just want to kind of bypass and get through, like, tell me what I need to do, just tell me what I
yeah,
need to do to heal
yeah.
and to just get there. But that doesn't exist.
No, that word grief is so powerful. I think, and for anyone listening who has lost, physically lost a
Yeah,
parent, or where they have actually just had to separate, or just even maybe just feel like they have no connection or don't, speak once a year or whatever, there's still grief there that needs to be validated.
absolutely. Absolutely. And validated by yourself as well. I don't think there's anything wrong, because this is something I used to struggle with. I don't think there's anything wrong with seeking validation externally. I think
Mm,
that's really, really important. But we also need to give that to ourselves, and that's the bit that's often missed. The
mm,
thing with grief though is it's one of those things where I believe we're so afraid to take the lid off
mm,
and explore and allow ourselves to feel grief, because we're really afraid of what might happen.
mm,
Am I really going to be able to overcome and get through if I take the lid off this thing?
mm.
Um, but there's definitely kind of a special pain that is there when you're grieving somebody that's still alive.
Yeah, and it's slightly different, but yeah, I could only imagine. And the kind of like pull and push that's going on in your head between they're still here, should I make the most of this, or actually this isn't right for me? And I can imagine that battle would be exhausting.
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely used to be. It's I really don't battle with that anymore. And
Mm,
it's taken me a long time to really own that, because a part of me is like, I don't know, I just, as the years have gone on and the more work I've done, like I don't battle with that, but I used to battle with that. And the thought sometimes does cross my mind, like, I've already grieved her, but one day she isn't going to be here anymore. And how am I going to feel when that day comes? And I allow myself to kind of feel that, and I allow myself to um, acknowledge that. But it really comes down to trust. It really comes down to, do I trust myself? Do I
Mm,
trust that I've made the right decision? Do I trust that I'll be able to handle it and I'll
yeah,
be able to feel it?
yeah, definitely. So as you're talking, I'm getting a few like conversations pop up in my head that I'm having with clients, etc., where maybe they want to be closer to their parents, but they can't get there, especially with some for example, the last few clients with their fathers. So they want to be closer to them, they want to get to know them more, they want to, be more involved in their lives, but they're kind of emotionally unavailable. So what would kind of be your advice there? Like, is that a matter of sort of kind of surrendering and just having to let it be what it's going to be, or should there be
I mean, yeah, yes, but to go to that, to try and get to that place straight away is, I don't, I believe that's going to cause you a hell of a lot more pain to
mm,
try and get to that place straight away. And you're seeing this a lot in the healing space and the self-development community at the moment, where it's just like surrender. And I talk about, I mean, I've got fucking surrender tattooed on my arm. Like,
yeah,
we were literally just having a conversation about where I'm at the moment in my life. Like,
yeah,
it's so important. But to not acknowledge the grief that your dad isn't who you want and need him to be, to ignore that is to do yourself a huge disservice. And you cannot get to this place of true acceptance until you actually allow yourself to feel your pain and to feel your grief and to actually process what's going on. And then there's also the aspect of, it's getting curious about, not that you want a relationship with your dad, that makes a lot of damn sense, but it's what's kind of driving that. You
yeah,
know, what feeling are you seeking out that's driving this need to have this relationship with somebody
mm,
that is then perpetuating this shame that you're feeling that he can't be who you need him to be?
yeah, absolutely. Are you chasing like kind of what society has led us to believe that a father role is, security and safety and all the rest of it, when actually maybe you need to find that in yourself. Because I can imagine some people desire to be connected to their parents more, and then when they get there, if they get there, it's could be a bit underwhelming and a bit like this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. To
Yeah,
prove the
absolutely.
point.
Yeah, and I hear should a lot as well, and I used to should on myself all the time. It's like, well, she's my mum. She should love me. She should, want to spend time with me. She shouldn't be so critical of me. But those shoulds are what kept me suffering for a really, really long time. And, now I'm a mother myself. I do have a lot more compassion for the ways she fell short and her limitations. And because this is the bit people usually leave out, I also recognize that I can't be in a relationship with her, because being in a relationship with her requires me to self-abandon who
Mm,
I am and my values, and I won't do that anymore. And that's the difference.
yeah. Yeah, and that's actually what it comes down to, does it? Because you'd be compromising if you went back there on yourself, wouldn't you? You know that you'd be doing it for the sake of maybe whoever, or just the situation or life, but actually it wouldn't be right for you.
No, and when you start to give that to yourself by recognizing what it is that's driving that in the first place, and seeing the ways in which a lot of us are enmeshed, especially mothers and daughters, like that's been the primary kind of piece of my work over the last 10 years. Mothers and daughters can be very enmeshed.
Mm,
Her pain is your pain and your pain is her pain.
mm,
Your responsibility for her happiness and hers for yours, it's all very intertwined.
mm,
There's often there's a lack of boundaries, um, and it's understanding the ways in which that has woven its way into your identity, and then beginning to kind of untether that,
mm.
and that then really helps you. It basically changes the lens in which you
Yeah.
look through at the relationship with her and the world, which then makes it easier, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So you're also a relationship coach as well as, the kind of whole mother wound. But how would you say that your learnings and experiences through the mother wound have now changed the way you are in your relationships? Maybe that is with your partner, your husband, or even friends.
Oh, that's a big question.
Big.
Big question. It's changed everything. It's
I
changed
can
everything.
imagine.
It's changed everything. My relationship to women has completely transformed.
Mm,
Um, one of the biggest impacts of a mother when you have a mother wound and your relationship to women is you can become very untrusting of women,
mm,
very skeptical of women. You know, if you think back to like the root, when you begin to feel unsafe with your maternal source, which, like we said earlier, is like she's everything.
yeah.
um, you begin to trust you begin to mistrust everything, and especially women. I know that I witnessed my mum have very unhealthy relationships with women. There was a lot of gossip, there was a lot of bitchiness, and then that kind of theme stayed quite prevalent in my life,
Mm,
and very much informed how I showed up in relationship with women. My relationship to men is completely transformed. I didn't trust men.
mm-hmm.
um, I didn't trust men. And one of the reasons I didn't trust men was to stay close to my mother. And I think that's a huge piece of this.
Mm,
For
yeah.
me to trust men meant in ways that were very unconscious, my mum would see that as a betrayal
Mm,
because she doesn't trust men. So that's been, as you can imagine, incredibly transformative for my relationship, my marriage. But it's not been easy. It has not been easy to be vulnerable and to allow myself to receive and have the connection that I want to have in relationships, because I just haven't felt worthy of it. And I think that's what all this kind of comes down to, at the root. And especially if people, whether you are aware of this or not, you either are consciously aware that your mother wasn't who you needed her to be, and you've always kind of questioned, like, what's wrong with me?
mm,
Or you might not be aware of that, but you might just feel it, and
mm.
then that will show up in your relationship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's because like people make mistake that sort of like, oh yes, it's changed my romantic relationship, but it wasn't a matter for you of I don't trust you, and now I see what's happened with this relationship with my mum. I'm now going to trust you. Let's go. It's like far from that, isn't it? You can't just decide to trust people. You can't just decide to trust yourself. And being in a partnership with somebody, with you and your partner, it's a marriage, is to have to go through that transition of trusting can be very difficult and challenging on both parts.
Absolutely. Because if you, like you've just said, if you don't trust yourself, if you don't trust the world, if you don't trust life, which is very hard to do when you've had a parent that's let you down so royally,
Mm,
it's very hard to trust. Then it is so hard to trust other people.
yeah. I can so imagine that. So in your own relationship, so was it Ed, your current, as if you might go on to another, but your
For now.
your husband at the moment, we'll see if that's okay. But is it with Ed that you had to, or was there a previous partner that you had to do this transition with? I think it was Ed, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I had to kind of, well, you think they're serious at the time, boyfriends, don't you? But like, I
Yeah.
had two boyfriends that were very, very abusive, very abusive. And when I met Ed, I was 22, and it was really interesting because when I met Ed, my parents had just divorced, and they were like in this separation period, and it was very messy. And I moved in with my mum, and I met Ed. And when I met Ed, I was very codependent. I
Ah.
didn't have a sense of identity really. My identity was just, I'm a nurse.
Mhm,
I'm a
yeah.
nurse and I need to be there for my mum, was kind of my identity.
Yeah.
I was very codependent, and I was a very kind of anxiously attached woman.
Mm.
And he was pretty avoidant. We were like a match made in heaven. And I fell pregnant very, very quickly with Neve. So things moved fast. And I talk about this quite a lot. When we'd been together about 3 years. Neve was very young. We just got married. And I remember us being like, well, I remember him, it was falling apart. It was falling apart, the seams. And we had to literally burn our relationship to the ground and start again
Yeah.
and rebuild it in a way that was serving us and giving each other what we need, you know, because you change.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, you are well, especially now, you're such a different person. Well, both of you will be, from that 22-year-old that met and fell pregnant. And I think that's the key part, isn't it, about the relationships? It's about being able to change and move together in your own way, in your own individual ways, but being able to remain as a partnership, because ultimately everyone's going to change year by year, month by month.
Yeah. But we don't want them to.
No.
And I think it's one of the most confronting things that I know I had to really deal with and look at and acknowledge is you don't want them to change.
No.
Not really. There's a part of you that really resists change. And it's not easy. And if you are, you know, if you are both doing the work, doing the inner work, which is so fucking important,
Mm,
you're not always going to be on the same page. And I think that's a really important distinction to make. Like you're going to be on your own journeys. But it's just that willingness and that kind of commitment to see each other in the messiness.
mm.
Kind of choose to lean in when we want to run away half the time, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's fair to say from this conversation, if anyone is struggling with their relationship with their, mum or dad, that, don't underestimate how much that can seep into the other relationships that you hold. It's not just you, it's not your fault, but actually it's normal for you to then have that lack of trust with other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And and I see it so often, and I understand why this is. Like we said earlier, there's so many things that are working kind of against us when it comes to looking at these relationships, but everything comes back to these. You
Mm.
know, we can often try so many different things, and the self-sabotaging patterns and the behaviors kind of continue and nothing really changes until we really kind of look at where we may not want to look.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, it's all so interesting, isn't it? You know what I do, everyone knows what I do, but I have so many clients that their connection to their self-worth, which is also their body dysmorphia, their body image, and the way they eat, etc. Like when we go through their lifelines, like there's often, more often than not, some sort of disconnection, or lack of connection, whatever it is, with a parent, and that is a void in their life for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I same with me. All of my clients kind of come with to me to heal their relationship to self and their mother. And I'm yet to work with a woman that doesn't have some sort of narrative that's not serving around their body or around food. I had an eating disorder, and it is. I remember reading a line in a book. I think the book was called Mother Hunger, so I recommend that to anybody listening to this, by Kelly Daniels. And she said how we stand in front of a fridge and we're just looking, and I'm sure you've done this, you know, you're just staring into the fridge and you're like, you know, you're not even hungry.
Yeah.
And it's like we're not looking for food, we're looking for something that can only be filled from within us. But like it's just, I just thought that was kind of a really good metaphor, because I think we've always done that, and we go rummaging through the cupboards, don't we don't even know what we're looking for.
All the time, literally every cupboard you open it. And if you're doing that at the age, if you just started doing that at the age of, say, 20 or late teens or whatever, then maybe it is that void of a partnership, or that you are a bit lonely. But for many people, this habit kicks in at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so a romantic relationship isn't even a thing back then. So actually, when you are saying you're opening that fridge and looking for that fulfillment, it's a it's a parent, isn't it? It's a love, it's a you know, it could
connection.
potentially be friends, but it's that accept, like, am I accepted? Am
Yeah,
I okay in this world?
yeah,
Yeah, I reckon that's for a whole nother podcast. The connection is, you know, is unbelievable. Okay, so what would you say? Because again, I feel like I've got lots of clients in this situation where they tell me that their relationships with their parents are fantastic, all perfect, hunky dory. But then as I'm, you know, talking to them, I can see that there are, you know, unhealthy connections. So for examples like not being able to, you know, they're 30 or 40 years old, whatever, not being able to make decisions on their own without their parents, life decisions. Maybe it's buying a house or going for a job or choosing their counselor or whatever it is. Like, would you say that's, you wouldn't say that's narcissistic? Would you say that there's an attachment issue there?
yeah. I mean, I definitely wouldn't say narcissistic.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I'm not even gonna go down that road. But
Oh.
um, I, and I believe it's a thing. I just want to clarify that. I believe it's a thing. Like, my mother doesn't have a diagnosis, and I would definitely, but I feel like we can use it as a way to kind of, yeah, we can use it as a bit of an escapism. I think it's kind of getting a little bit, anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's, the word's getting, it's a buzzword, isn't it? Narcissist.
it's just, yeah, it's getting very, it's getting thrown around. I just think we need to be careful. I think even beyond needing to be careful, I think we just need to get curious. And it's when critical thinking is just more important than ever.
Yeah.
And this feeds into exactly the question that you're asking me is, are we thinking independently? Are we critically thinking? Are we getting curious? Are we asking ourselves, what do I want? What do I like? And when you are enmeshed, I think this is leaning towards enmeshment. I think when you are enmeshed, because this was me, and I just want to say, like, anything that I did in my life would go through my mum.
Yeah.
I would ring her 6, 7 times a day, and we would even just sit on the phone in silence sometimes, just doing stuff around the house. And I know that that's really common.
Yeah, it is. I know. I hear a lot of
I would
this.
ring her. I would do something, ring my mum, do something else, ring my mum. And that was normal for me.
Mm,
And I don't think that in itself is the unhealthy piece. And I just kind of want to make that really clear. Like, if you have that relationship with your mum, then great. Like, I am such an advocate for mother-daughter relationships, and I just think they are so wonderful. And like, if you have that, that is incredible.
uh,
But if you are handing your power over to your mother, to your dad, to your friend, to your husband to make decisions for you because you don't feel like you can trust yourself to do that,
yeah,
that's when we want to get curious, because it is not just happening in that area of your life.
mm,
And the question then becomes, where are you playing small? Where are you afraid to step outside of the box and to actually do what you want to do that might come at a disapproval from your mother or your father?
yeah, yeah,
Because that sounds really simple, and it sounds really like, well, of course, I hear this a lot. Well, if I really wanted to do it, I'd just do it. And it's like, yeah, because that discomfort of disapproval to your nervous system
mm,
feels like a threat. It feels like danger,
mm,
and in a lot of cases when we're talking about trauma, it feels really fucking terrifying, and it feels really, really unsafe, which
mm,
is why we create these worlds for ourselves that remain pretty much in our comfort zone.
mm.
We
Yeah,
like to stay in control.
yeah,
We like
yeah,
to be busy.
yeah, yeah. I'm thinking of a situation where I was talking to someone and they had been offered two jobs, and the conversation was she'll speak to her dad and find out whether what he thinks which one she should go for. And we were kind of like delving into it a bit, and I was like, well, is the answer that you actually value his opinion and that you will really take that on board and make a conscious decision because you really respect his decisions, etc.? Or is it a part of you that actually just wants someone who is kind of like looking after you to kind of make that decision for you, because you're missing that kind of, I am your guardian, and I ask you to do this, because there's some sort of comfort in that, isn't there? That being protected. Or is it the fact that if you make a decision that doesn't work out, you're going to feel that feeling, which you mentioned earlier, of kind of shame towards a parent because you made the wrong decision, and therefore you've then got to hold that yourself as, yeah, I fucked up, even though we all know actually that stuff isn't messing up in life. But just that sort of like, if you've had a parent who has kind of like put blame on you, you've done that wrong, you've messed up there, you shouldn't have done that, then you're gonna always want their validation so that you don't feel that again, aren't you?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's insidious. Like, it
uh,
happens so subtly and so insidiously, and it really affects so many areas of life. I talk about shame is like the core. Like, I work a lot around shame, and that one of the simplest ways that I can define shame, which I think is really important in this context, is shame is the result of the environment around you being deficient. You
mm,
know, maybe your parents they have their limitations and they're deficient in something, which is coming from within them.
mm,
But they will then put that, they will then, they will make a child feel like they're deficient, and a child then carries that, and that's shame. And what shame does is it gives you hope and it fuels you.
mm,
Because with shame, you can basically say, oh, well, if I just do this, then I'll get the love and approval that I'm looking for, you know? It
yeah,
basically protects you from, fuck, this is me.
yeah,
I'm not good enough. Shame will protect you from that by making you feel like there's something that you can do about it. And usually that is a personality trait of, no, it's not even a personality trait, but it's an adaptation, which is where the good girl comes from.
oh, whole another thing right there. There's so much, isn't there? I think we're going to get like quite a lot of feedback from this, and I think what I'd say is, if people have enjoyed this conversation and they want to know more, they want to hear more, they want to explore it more, then obviously they can reach out to you, but also contact me and let me know, because we could always produce a workshop or something like that for people, because I know how important this conversation is going to be for many of my clients, and just even friends that I know.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. That was amazing. And just tell us where everyone can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok as well. So whatever takes your fancy, video or written. But yeah, I'm on TikTok at and Instagram at I am Michaila Tyson. And yeah, you can find me there.
Yeah, perfect. Well, yeah, like I said, feedback, everyone. If you want more of this, we can produce more of it. So let us know. But thank you, my love. So good to see your face again.
And you. Thank you for having me.
That's quite all right. Speak to you soon. Bye.